Welcome, welcome, welcome back to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us. My Be Health Empowered family, of course, my name is Dr. Melissa Clark. Please call me Dr. Mel. I am truly delighted that you tuned in tonight. We have a special show for you. And as always, we want you to be a part of it. We want you to put your questions in the chat. We want you to put your opinions, your concerns, all that, your experiences in the chat as we go through all the things we're going to cover tonight. And if you haven't yet done this, if you're listening for the first time or you're a long time Be Health Empowered family member and you still haven't hit that subscribe button, please do that if you're checking us out on YouTube. And if you're on Facebook, please hit that like button. We really, really, really appreciate you for that. And you know that I can't do this on my own. I got to have my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, producers, Miss Lila Mays, Mr. Wayne Bruce. Come on through. We want to see you.
So, happy summer.
Happy summer.
Happy summer.
Happy. This is the summer midsummer wrap up. I mean, this is the midsummer recap.
Midsummer wrap. Can you believe? First of all, can you believe it's midsummer? I mean, like next week is truly midsummer, and we've had amazing amount of content this year, and we're gonna recap the highlights for you tonight. And y'all can get in with us with the questions and comments.
We can get in some. I mean,
Yeah.
It's summer because I got on my golf wear. I'm like a different coffee bean shade of coffee bean. The whole thing. It's summer, y'all. Summer. This year can't get through fast enough for the kids.
Well, it's moving right along.
It is moving. It
Yes,
is
it
moving
is.
along.
Yes.
But we here tonight, y'all. We here tonight. So everything has been happening. All this stuff with the president and healthcare and all kinds of things, man.
And if you detect some sorrow and sadness, it's because you all know that today we lost a legend, and someone who I know Lila and Wayne knew personally, Malcolm Jamal Warner. I know there's been a lot of talk on social media. So we're going to honor him tonight as well as we move through the show. And I know many of you all out there are also feeling the loss of his incredible spirit. So
yeah, that's an incredible guy. He was an incredible man. We all grew up. Around my age group, we were a little older than him, but we watched him grow up on TV, and a lot of us grew up with him on TV. So, but God is amazing. Just tell you how God is. That we used to see him on TV, and to have a chance to meet him and be his friend and work with him was just definitely not something I ever expected until it happened, and not something that I'll ever forget or take lightly. Or incredible man.
yes, and he brought a lot of joy through the roles that he played, through his spoken word, through his music later in his career. And I even was blessed to have a conversation with him about Black maternal mortality and the disparities. And the brother was passionate about that subject, well-read, well-versed, knew about health equity, wanted to do something specifically about Black maternal health. And, like I said, his light will be missed. So, well, what do you have for us, producers, today? What is going on?
The people who are are running the country have been, I don't know what to say. I'm trying not to be political because this ain't my show. This is Dr. MEL's show. But it does lean to what we have talked about with one of our incredible guests this year, Dr. Georges Benjamin. And Dr. Georges Benjamin was incredible, and just what he talked about was coming down the pike, and since has come down the pike with our public health system. I like to go to a clip with Dr. Benjamin.
But as your
The
team,
biggest concern that I have right now is the lack of principled quality leadership at the national level. We've got extraordinary people at the state and local level in most cases, but right now I'm very worried about the national leadership. We've seen over the last several weeks the amount of misinformation and disinformation that's been articulated by our current health secretary. The fact that they're not using the experts that they really have in the Department of Health and Human Services to engage with the public and to give us good information. So right now, that is my biggest concern, is the lack of leadership and the amount of bad information that's out there. That's not evidence-based, it's not science-based.
well, thank
Wow.
Yeah, I was just about to say, he talked about public health, and I was going to just make that connection to Black maternal mortality, since we just mentioned it, that 40 to 60% of births in this country are covered by Medicaid. That's how they're paid for. And so one of the things I know that he talked about on that show also had to do with our Medicaid system and people that are going to get disenrolled from Medicaid. And one of the things that we saw most recently under the Biden administration was an extension of Medicaid to cover a woman 12 months after she gives birth. That's huge. That means one headache off your mind. You've given birth, how are you going to continue to get health care coverage? Medicaid will cover it, right? And so as we're now facing the prospects of what is called, quote unquote, the big beautiful bill, but many people feel differently about its beauty, because it will result in anywhere up to about 17 million people no longer being eligible for either Medicaid or the marketplace, what's called Obamacare, with the dollars or the subsidies that were being made available to help people be able to afford plans on the health insurance exchange. So I know he spoke about that as well. Dr. Benjamin is the head of the American Public Health Association. He is very wise, very knowledgeable, and he basically foresaw all of the things that I'm talking to you about.
Yeah. He talked about the threat to us. Can I pull that clip? Let me pull that clip in, Dr. Mel. He talked about
what are some of the threats that you think we need to be aware of?
Well, the current administration has done several things. Number one, they've already reduced funding for the outreach workers that have been working to get people into the program. So that's the first thing, trying to get people actually covered and insured. Secondly, they are planning to dramatically cut the program for the subsidies for the health exchanges. That's private insurance that people get, where the federal government is subsidizing the coverage that people get so that your premiums are affordable. So they do that, they will raise the cost of premiums. There's a great deal of discussion right now about advocating for more what we call skinny plans. So when the administration was there before, they promoted these slimmed down plans, and people were buying them because they were more affordable. But then when they got to go, when they really got sick, they found that it didn't really cover anything useful.
Right.
So that they were not something that you really want to spend your money for. And so
Right.
that's
So,
the reason they have
just to pause on that, it's like buying homeowners insurance and then finding, when your roof blows off, it doesn't cover it, or right. So
exactly.
same thing with health insurance. When you actually need to go use it, even though you're not paying a lot for it, when you need to go use it, it doesn't really do what you need it to do, which is pay your premium, pay your bills, and your medical expenses.
That's right. And sometimes for things that are everyday things, maybe because you need to have your hip surgery done, or you fell and broke your arm.
Yep.
There are limits to a lot of those plans. There are high deductibles, meaning you have to put out of your pocket a lot of money before the insurance kicks in. So I encourage people, if you're going to make that choice to buy one of those skinny plans, do your homework before you get them.
Yep, that's exactly what he was talking about. And those skinny plans, see, they were really rampant before Obamacare, before the Affordable Care Act. And that was one of the things that the Affordable Care Act solved for, was these sort of low-cost healthcare plans that people would buy in good faith, right, thinking it was going to take care of them. And then when they really were in trouble, it turned out it didn't really do anything. And I'm afraid that they're going to now be popping up again. We see some, oftentimes, not picking on churches, but sometimes churches will band together and offer health insurance for people, and it'll be one of these skinny plans. And, unfortunately, because it's not on the marketplace or under Obamacare, and people unfortunately get burnt. And like I said, not picking on churches, there are other kinds of organizations that do it as well. And they probably mean well, but it's, in the end, doesn't sort of bode well for the people that buy into them. It's the safest thing is to try to get something through the marketplace if you're not getting something from your insurer, or you don't qualify for Medicaid or Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned something in that that was true to life. Like, you really, people don't know. People don't know about it, and a lot of times you don't have the wherewithal. Some of our people, not even our people, some of our
Anybody.
people will not even know the language, right? People don't even know what a subsidy is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And that's not just Black people. That's everybody.
That's everybody. So I want to play that clip.
Thing too, as you mentioned subsidies, I have to say, over the summer I was talking to a gentleman somehow at the gas pump, and we were talking about that very same thing, about cutting subsidies to those folks who wanted to enroll in the health exchange plans, and he didn't know what the word subsidy meant. So can you break that down for us a little bit more?
Yeah, it means that the federal government pays a portion of what you normally would have paid. So when you buy health insurance, you can pay anywhere from $30 to $300-$400 on average for a monthly premium. You pay that out of pocket to have the insurance, and that's your premium. And so the federal government pays a large portion of that for the exchanges, for people who are middle income people, so that is much more affordable. So maybe instead of paying $200 a month for a policy, you only have to pay $50 a month. So it's much more affordable, and the federal government is paying, that part for you. And
Right.
the problem is that we increase those subsidies, those additional payments on behalf of the people of America during the COVID pandemic, in order to make sure we got everybody covered. And those subsidies, those additional payments, they run out at the end of this fiscal year, and they have to be reauthorized. And right now, the Congress, particularly the House on the Republican side, has put up a budget that may not allow us to actually have the dollars to do that.
Right. And I should mention that the person I was talking to at the gas pump was not Black. He was actually a Trump supporter.
At all. at all. He,
and was horrified when I explained it to him, because he had clearly, this was like in October, he had probably early voted, and he was horrified that he had cast his vote for somebody who might remove the subsidies. He just didn't understand that. And he was joyful that the subsidy had helped him get, what was it, a walker?
it was it was $1,000 walker.
Yeah.
And he said it would cost me $1,000 to $1,500 for this walker. And if it wasn't for good old Obamacare, he did one good thing. He said, I wouldn't have my walker, but I love Obamacare for that.
I think he said he voted for Obama, but then
he voted for him because he spoke well.
But then he voted for Trump when Trump came along.
Right.
The first time. Yeah. So there you have it. So I think everybody should understand that distinction. Clear distinction.
Everybody doesn't understand what's going to happen with this. So everybody doesn't understand how they're going to pay for this. Dr. Benjamin broke it down. I mean, I'm a fan. Clearly, I'm a fan of Dr. Benjamin because we need to know what's going on. People need to know the impact of what's happening in Congress and in the halls and the Senate on their health. Like,
yeah,
we're about to see a shift.
Yeah.
Huge.
I want to play it, the last clip for Dr. Benjamin, where he talks about that.
Right. Let's move on to Medicaid rather. So that's folks, the Affordable Care Act, the health insurance exchanges, middle income people who don't get insurance through their jobs, right? Self-employed folks. Now let's move on to Medicaid, which I mentioned covers pregnant women, disabled individuals, low-income individuals. What are some of the challenges that we're seeing to Medicaid under this current administration?
So Medicaid is the nation's insurance program. So the way to think about this is, if you're very low income, Medicaid covers you, and the federal government covers that insurance program, and it's a partnership between you and the state. The states pay a portion of the cost, and the federal government pay a portion of the cost. And then the health exchanges that we were just talking about are mid-income individuals to people who are have a much higher salary, and then if you are a senior, age 65 or older, then you're eligible for Medicare, no matter what. And what the federal government is doing, primarily the Congress, when they passed this most recent budget, they didn't put enough money in that budget to cover all the costs for Medicare and Medicaid. In fact, they're trying to get about $800 billion over 10 years out of the Medicaid program. So what that basically means, the way you can take that money out is provide less services for people, to put out less money per beneficiary. In other words, pay your doctors and your hospitals less money, or somehow otherwise cap the amount of money going out the door. And at the end of the day, every time they've done that, less people have been covered. Now, under the Affordable Care Act, when we put the Affordable Care Act in place, Obamacare, almost all the states increased eligibility for this Medicaid program so that nobody low income would not be covered, except for 10 states, mostly in the South, mostly the states that have the worst health outcomes. For one reason or another, they said they did not want to cover their citizens. So they still have Medicaid, but the eligibility for that program is so very low that in many cases it's laughable. And now they want to take more money out of the program nationally, because that's the only way they can find savings. And I understand being fiscally responsible, but what the public needs to know is that they want to take the money away from lower income individuals and give it to rich people in the form of a tax cut.
Yes,
Only reason.
exactly. My concern is what happens when people are not insured, right? Because there are going to be people who choose to say, okay, well, I'm not going to get my insurance through the health insurance exchange because it's too expensive since I lost my subsidy. Or they're going to be people who would have been eligible for Medicaid, but now they make a little bit too much because the cutoffs are now much, much lower for the top income that you could have and still get Medicaid. And those people will make the choice because they don't have any other choice to make financially to go without insurance. And what happens then is you sit and wait on health problems. You try to ignore that stomach pain, which may be an ulcer, which then may lead to bleeding in your intestines. You ignore that chest pain that then may turn out to be a heart attack. You ignore the dizziness and headaches, which then may turn out to be a stroke or brain cancer. And then it's too late to treat. People are going to die because they don't have access to care. And this is why we need to be sounding the alarm and coming up with different options and alternatives for what we're going to do. So we need to have Dr. Benjamin back on, I think, to talk about, okay, now the bill has passed. Now what?
What is there that we could do?
Yeah. I think, well, there's an election coming up, right? And sounding the alarm, getting people galvanized, helping people to understand the impact, because the problem is a lot of these things are not going to kick in until after the midterms on purpose. Yeah. So we need to be sounding the alarm, putting the ground game together. If you really are concerned that this is going to cause problems for the health of Americans, now's the time to start doing something and rallying to make sure that there is a different representation to come up with different solutions. And then the only other thing I can suggest in the meantime is, to make people aware about the option to go to federally qualified health centers. They'll still be out there. They'll still be seeing people on a sliding scale. But a lot of people don't know about them, or, feel that the care that they might get there is substandard. It's not.
Let me tell you, it is not. And there have been periods where income was crazy, but I needed some medication. Pride is not bigger than your health. Health is wealth.
Comes before the fall, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Be proud of what I say.
Yeah, we may have to do a show on federally qualified health centers, also known as free clinics or community clinics. So my father-in-law, God rest his soul, he taught me so much about healthcare and the way the system works from his own lived experience. He got superior healthcare at a federally qualified health center in Washington, D.C. called Unity Healthcare. I actually used to sit on the board of Unity Healthcare and chaired it at one time.
But that's not why he got. That's not why he got superior service.
No.
Oh,
he got great service just because they have teams of people, not just the doctor, but they have a care manager, they have a social worker, they have a nutritionist, then they have specialists on staff that can see you. And I say, he lived to be 87 in a city where Black men live on average to 65 and even white men only live to 83. He lived to 87, and partially because of the great care that he got there. So yeah, no, I am a big fan of federally qualified health centers. And if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have health insurance and you need care, don't wait. You can go and get preventive care there. You can get your vaccines there. You can get checkups there, all of that.
All of that. I wanted to just say that what I said before there, because things happen, right? I have been gainfully employed and then lost coverage, and Cobra was whooping my tail. And I was like, Cobra is almost as expensive as a car note, more
Oh
than
yeah.
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
times, right?
And
There was a period of time where I had to make some decisions about getting treated, and and I didn't have the funds to pay for Cobra.
yeah.
So
I think.
And
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, so Cobra is just that option that you have if you leave a job
the
to
extension,
pay your health insurance premium. The reason it's so expensive is because the employer is no longer subsidizing, right? No
Mhm.
longer paying
right?
part of the cost of that health insurance, which is exactly what happens on the health insurance exchange. Is the
Right.
government was paying part of the premium of the cost of that plan for people, and that's what we're concerned about is going away.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Which brings us, we have a question in the chat. Emma Porter asks, question, how can a person get help with medication? They always told me I make too much. One medication costs $5,600, and the medication that works for this child, they have insurance, but is told they can't get help because the husband makes too much. They still have other children that need meds, and the mother on top of it needs some help. So, people
Yeah.
people are out here suffering right now. Bill
Yeah.
hasn't
Yeah.
even kicked in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill hasn't even kicked in.
No, that's true. That's true. And I would say to Miss Porter, there are programs like GoodRx where you can get
Yes.
discounts on drugs.
Mhm.
Talk to your pharmacist about some options. And then you can also call the pharmaceutical company
Yes.
because they often have programs for which you can qualify for medication. And then finally, doctors often get samples of medications. And so that can at least, maybe be a tie over if the doctor can get samples, for you or and for your particular need. So all those might be options, but I get it. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. It's tough. So, I mean, it's producers and all our jobs to look back over the shows that we had, and a couple shows struck me when I was going through the tape. We only actually have tape no more. We had we're going through the digital
Digital
gigabytes,
archives.
the digital archives, the gigabytes. When I was going through the gigabytes of work, and I just want to tell you, you and Lila have put in, and myself, I mean, we have put in some work, covering all just all disciplines of medicine and diseases and things that affect our community. And one that struck me that seemed like a drive-by was Dr. and I cannot pronounce her name.
Oyawusi?
Oyawusi. Dr.
Okay.
Oyawusi. Dr. Oyawusi literally came on and spoke about the disparities and MS in our
EMS.
community. And it shocked me. Some of the things she said I didn't know. And one of the things she said really struck me about MS and in the community of Black women. I like to play that clip.
I can just say outside of being a doctor, anecdotally, I know personally 6 Black women with MS, 5 of whom unfortunately passed away as a result of the disease. One of whom was my line sister in Delta Sigma Theta, so this is very personal. And only one of these people that I knew was not a woman. Everyone else was a woman. So what's going on with Black women in multiple sclerosis? Why are we seeing higher rates in women in general and then in Black women?
Okay, so there might be a hormonal factor why MS affects women more so than men. And inflammation is key to this immunologic response. And we're even seeing papers tying inflammation to stress, like emotional stress. So that possibly could be a factor as to why women of color are getting a higher incidence. And I, found interesting what you were speaking about earlier regarding inflammation and colon cancer. Unfortunately, inflammation is at the seat of many disease processes. And if we can decrease those factors by our diet, exercising to decrease inflammation, decreasing our stress, hopefully that could optimize livelihood and decrease, the incidence of this disorder.
Right. We often talk about the fact that, the saying black don't crack, but unfortunately that's just for the outside. The stressors that we do go through as Black people can cause these higher rates, as you mentioned, of inflammation in our body and then leading to diseases like MS.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing I talk about, I'm really glad she brought up it in inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause or the linking process to just about every single chronic disease there is, from Alzheimer's to rheumatoid
Wow.
arthritis to multiple sclerosis to colon cancer. And inflammation, we think of inflammation as, it's actually a good thing in certain instances because, if you get bitten by a mosquito or you twist your ankle, you want inflammation to happen because that's, when your skin swells up, when you're bitten by the mosquito, it's your body counteracting the effects, the irritation of the mosquito. When you have a cold and the inside of your nose swells up, that's your body sending cells to that area to fight the virus. We need inflammation, but what happens is when our bodies get out of balance, that inflammation never turns off. And the things that throw our body out of balance and out of whack are those 5 self-health actions that I always talk about: not getting enough sleep, poor diet, with high trans fats, high sugar, um, not enough movement in our lives, whether that be exercise or just doing the honey-do list on the weekend, walking extra, when you get out of the car to go to the grocery store. So not enough movement. And then a high level of stress that we're not dealing with because we feel overwhelmed, that sends signals to our bodies that pump our cortisol levels up, and then that leads to inflammation. And when that happens over time, when we're eating a poor diet, not getting enough exercise, not getting enough sleep, and under high levels of stress, that then leads to long-term inflammation or chronic inflammation, which then leads to these diseases that we see. And I didn't throw in diabetes and high blood pressure. All those are chronic diseases that have inflammation at their root cause.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
Hence the 5 self-health actions and be health empowered, because
go through them again, Dr. Mel. Go through them again. What are the 5 self-health actions?
Okay, so nutrition, and that includes eating an anti-inflammatory diet, mainly a plant-based diet, and avoiding processed foods, those things that are in the middle of the grocery store, as opposed to on the fringes of the grocery store where the produce and all the good stuff is. Staying well hydrated, because you need water to flush toxins out of your body that you get exposed to every day, and stay well hydrated. I personally find that when I don't get enough water, the first sign is I get tired, I get sleepy, I don't have any energy. And the second sign, if it gets worse, is I get a headache. Then the next thing is movement and sleep. So movement, you want to make sure that you're getting in, you're moving and contracting your muscles every day. Even if you just go for 3 10-minute walks or 1 30-minute walk, making sure that your muscles are being engaged is key, because your muscles release this chemical into your bloodstream that helps to decrease inflammation in your body. It's amazing the way the body works. And then sleep is key, getting your 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, because your brain goes through a cycle of releasing toxins, and each cycle lasts an hour and a half, and there are 4 cycles. So that means you have to be asleep at least 6 hours to get that benefit. And then you need time to fall in and wake up. So hence that's where the 7 hours comes from. And if you don't chronically get enough sleep, then you can get the toxins built up into your brain, and that puts you at increased risk for things like neurologic diseases, MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, etc. So those are 4: nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise. And then the last one is managing the stressors in your life every day. So getting those cortisol levels down, and whether it's meditation, exercise, a hobby, hanging out with your friends, not alcohol, but just things that help to calm your nervous system, bring you joy, and make you not feel overwhelmed. Those are the things that we need to be devoting at least 5 minutes to every day to be able to counteract the stress in your life.
Wow.
Okay.
There you have it. There you have it. Buy the book. Excuse me, doctor. I've got what?
Yep, that's all in there.
So,
Yeah.
so Doc, the great doctor talked about. Lila asked her a really good question about the myths of MS. Let's go to that question.
So Dr. O, you heard us do our weekly debunk. We debunk myths around here. Are there any myths that you've heard about MS that you can sort of debunk for us?
One, that it doesn't affect people of color. It does, as we and I again appreciate your you giving me the opportunity to highlight that, along with my colleagues that I mentioned earlier, that unfortunately there's a high incidence. And if this helps anyone who might have been experiencing symptoms like this to start a conversation, I'm glad for it. What other things can I think of with MS? That there's one, the biggest one that I've come to know as a more advanced healthcare practitioner, there's no one picture of MS. There's some subtle signs. People can have very subtle signs, and we get imaging for whatever reason, see, oh goodness, like, the pins and needles just that they were experiencing, it was actually likely associated with their multiple sclerosis or a headache even, which is, it's considered a very common syndrome. It can be mild, and that could be, associated with someone's multiple sclerosis.
Now, that can do 2 things. That can, which one of them?
What are the 2 things it could do?
It informed us, but that can scare the hell out of you. You think you got a headache? People being here diagnosed, really. I got a headache. I think I got MS.
Yeah. But I thought it was. I'm laughing because I know there's a balance there. Certainly it could scare you, right? Because we overthink anyway.
Right.
But I thought it was amazing information because I had never heard of that as a possible symptom, if you will, right? One of the things Dr. O talked about, and I can't think of the organization that Victoria works for, but she was someone that she is a mutual acquaintance of mine and Dr. O's. And she's a Black woman who really, really advocated for herself and now is an advocate for and a spokesperson for Black women with MS. I'll find the name of that organization so we can drop it in the chat again. But I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, that was an excellent question, Lila. And I think one of the things, you mentioned headache. The problem with MS is it's also called the great imitator, because there's so many symptoms that just could seem to be true and unrelated that are popping up, and people don't put the picture together. And so that's why it's important, why your friend probably ended up becoming an advocate, because she had to advocate for herself. So if you have a bunch of different symptoms and they seem unrelated, and they're, based in your neurologic symptoms, so pins and needles, headaches, weakness, and you are not getting an explanation, go to a neurologist, right? Be persistent. If your doctor can't diagnose and say, hey, can you refer me to a neurologist?
Right.
because a lot of times it takes a long time to diagnose, and that's time where, you know, you could have been treated. So
Did we lose Dr. Mel?
Oh, I thought it was me.
Did we lose
I think
Dr.
so.
Mel?
I think so. She was saying
She-
something good too.
She was saying we lost your sound.
We lost
Dr.
you,
Mel.
Doc.
all right, can you hear me
There we
now?
go.
Yes.
Got you back.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I was saying that be assertive if you
Mhm.
have a constellation of symptoms or a group of symptoms that, you know, nobody seems to be giving you a good explanation for. Always ask your primary care, well, can you refer me to a specialist? In this case, if it's nervous system related issues, ask to see a neurologist.
Okay. The name of that organization that I was mentioning, and it's a nonprofit, and they are an advocacy organization to redefine what sick looks like for Black women living with MS. It's called We Are Ill. The website is We Are Illmatic. Ill.
Illmatic. All right.
Wow.
Where does that come from? I know that's in a song
Nas.
somewhere.
Nas.
Nas, thank you, Illmatic.
We're gonna pour you on on your hip hop knowledge.
The hip hop knowledge.
Hip hop knowledge.
I can't keep it all straight.
Hip
I
hop
can't
knowledge.
keep the
No,
five
you
self
keep a lot
taxes,
straight.
So
brother.
look.
No, you
Medicare,
keep-
Medicaid, and the health insurance exchange straight. At the same time, I'm thinking about my Nas albums. It's
Right.
hard.
So
It's hard.
that brings us to, that brings us to having a clean brain, keeping everything together. And we had Dr. Agarwal. Did I say that
Oh
right?
yeah,
Agarwal.
you did, Dr. Agarwal. Yeah, she Alzheimer's expert from Rush University. She is she's got it together, and
She's
she
got it
explains
together.
things so well.
She explained the difference, just what is dementia, Alzheimer's. Let's hear it from her.
Well, good. Well, let's start with the basics, because a lot of people are confused between, dementia, Alzheimer's. What do those terms mean? And can you break it down in a simple way so that our audience can understand?
Well, dementia is more of thinking about your changes in your thinking over time. Okay. So what it means is that you have your memory, your calculation, attention, all of those things that we take for granted. Over time, if it changes, then we start to wonder what could be happening. And typically it changes in people over 65 slowly. But if it accelerates and starts to have a problem with doing your activities of daily living, that's when we get worried and wondering, is this a process of the brain is undergoing neurodegeneration? Okay. Now,
Okay.
Alzheimer's is one type of dementia, and that's the big thing. You have dementia, and then you have Alzheimer's. And it's just one type. There are many other types of dementia. So when people say she has dementia, I say, hey, okay, I got it. What type? And that's what we need to talk about Alzheimer's, because frankly, it's still the most common type.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about what's different about Alzheimer's dementia. What exactly is it? And how does it differ from normal memory loss that you mentioned that can happen over age 65?
Okay. So let's talk about normal changes in thinking over 65.
Mhm.
People who have changes in thinking typically say it's taking longer to come correct, but it's taking more time. Okay. Other folks may say, I forget, but then when I start to piece it together, I remember exactly why I came in the room. So again, there's some changes that are happening there. With Alzheimer's, it doesn't come back. It just does. The thinking and the details and the conversations don't come back. And I think that's the biggest thing to think about now with that, when people are wondering, is this normal or is this something else going on? Okay. And the something else going on is, you just talked to me, like, you know, Dr. Mel, I can't remember anything that you've said.
Right. So a difference between the quote unquote senior moments, right, that people talk about versus actual changes in the brain that are going faster, leading to problems where that memory is just not coming back. You're not able to reconstruct things. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So I just want to be clear that me not knowing Nas and Illmatic
No, I didn't say
at my fingertips
no.
was not even a senior moment.
No, it was not. It
Ma'am.
wasn't.
I mean, excuse
Not
me,
at
doctor. We say
No.
we just talking about we
But-
were talking about the 5 self-help actions. I want to get back
Yeah.
to the causes. You know, you said inflammation causes most of our ailments, a lot of our ailments,
Including Alzheimer's, yes.
including Alzheimer's. That's why
And some forms of dementia, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Her
and
breaking
that,
it down.
yeah, that
Sorry,
sleep
Dr.
piece is a big piece of it. Sorry, Lila, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say her breaking that down was hugely important. I think that's a clip we should circulate, because a lot of people don't understand how Alzheimer's is the dementia is the umbrella, if you will, and then Alzheimer's is a form of that. I didn't know that for years. I thought they were two completely different things. So that was really, really an important definition.
Wow.
No, I think yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think a couple other forms of dementia that are not as common as Alzheimer's, but common is vascular dementia, which just basically means over the years, if you have chronically high blood pressure, you have a series of little mini strokes in your brain. They're not big enough to detect, but over time, the additive effect, they add up to then start to cause memory loss, right? So that's vascular dementia, different than Alzheimer's. And then another one is called Lewy body dementia.
Yeah.
Oftentimes people with Parkinson's disease might have Lewy body's dementia. And then the last one is frontotemporal dementia. That means, you know, originating in the front and the sides of your brain, deteriorating. And that's what we hear that Bruce Willis has, which first, manifests as problems with speech and communication.
Wow.
So,
Very sad. So look, we've had some incredible guests, Dr. Agarwal, but you know, when we talk, everything stems around, you know, do we get proper service to our community, and whatever it is. I mean, it could be, you know, food, deserts, and whatever. But it was very interesting to hear Lila's friend from Los Angeles, the yoga instructor,
oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
talk about, and what's her name, Lai?
Selena was popping her stuff, wasn't she?
She was
Selena
popping
came
that
up.
stuff.
She was.
She was.
She was.
popping that
Lana was
stuff.
wondering where you were going with that, though. She was like,
But I was.
where's he going with
Dr.
this?
Mel, like,
No. But she talked about access in our community. She talked about our community with yoga right off. Very interesting, incredible. Let me see. We don't have that. Do we have that? We don't have that right now.
aw.
The intern didn't cue it up.
Intern didn't cue that up. Let me see what we have.
You know, to your decision to establish the yoga studio, in Inglewood, we know that Black and Brown communities face higher rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, other stress-related illnesses. How can yoga be a tool for healing and prevention in our health journeys?
That's a really good question. I think that let's go back even before we use yoga as a tool for prevention. It can actually be used as intervention as well, right?
Okay.
So
Mhm.
if we understand or take the time to implement certain practices like breath work or like the asanas or yoga poses into our day-to-day lives, then we could become more aware of our physical body and when we're out of alignment or when we do feel certain stressors rising or we feel our blood pressure is getting high, we could be more readily available and consciously act on bringing ourselves back into balance or back into equanimity. So it just brings more of a self-awareness to our physiology, to our mental state, to our thoughts. And we could use that not so much as a place of judgment, but more so as like a compass or a guide. If we continuously just kind of go through our days without slowing down and addressing how we're actually feeling, then things ultimately can get out of hand or out of control, right? And then we'll be
Mhm.
likely operating from a state of chronic stress. So before we get to that point, yoga, meditation, mindfulness affords us and offers us that opportunity to just really dive in and say, hey, how do I feel? How am I when I'm
Right.
by myself or when I'm alone? You know,
Right.
if we don't take that time, then our days just feed right into each other. And before you know it, we'll have a stress related disease. And we
Wow.
You brought it full circle right there. I should say Selena brought it full circle.
She
Brought it
did.
full
Talking about
circle.
full circle, talking about chronic stress. And, yoga, Tai Chi, and meditation are three research proven ways to decrease chronic stress because they, just like you said, they bring down our cortisol level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she
Mhm.
was saying about checking in with your self, seeing exactly how you feel, really
Mm-hmm.
sort of slowing down and sort of bringing calm and peace to your nervous system, because all that interrelates. Because if not, that's really what fuels chronic inflammation, sort of the chronic anxiety, the feeling overwhelmed. Stress, actually, by definition, means that um, you feel that the resources that you have are not enough for the situation. And what meditation does is it connects you back to your source and to yourself. So, and yoga puts you in the same space, Tai Chi puts you in the same place of realizing that you have inner resources or a connection to something greater than yourself that then puts you in the mindset of, no, I don't feel overwhelmed. No, this is not greater than me. I will get through this. And then your cortisol level doesn't go up.
Good stuff.
Good stuff, La. That was your girl, Selena.
Yeah, she made me proud.
She
Yes,
did.
I
She
mean,
did.
she was on point. I mean, I learned so much about yoga in that episode. I think I'm gonna go back and watch it just
You
so
got
I can
I know,
absorb a
just the
little bit more.
definitions and yeah,
Yeah,
right. She used
yeah.
equanimity. I was
yes.
like, girl, did you just use equanimity? Look, so before we get go, I mean, we're down the home stretch here. I want you said making proud, lie. Another person who made us proud. Uh, I got to bring up this brother, Dr. Russell Leday. I'm just gonna play the clip. I'm just gonna play the
Right.
clip.
Well, before we get to that, and I don't know if we can flash the picture of the 15 white coats back up, but that image of you and your fellow Black medical students in white coats um, in front of a plantation went viral. Um,
Mhm.
what inspired, given everything you've told us about your background and your challenges, and maybe those moments of doubt around the MCAT, what made you decide to produce this photograph and make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, I always remember July 2019. July 2019, my daughter was out of school. It was just me and her. And my best friend, who also had gotten his PhD with me at NYU School of Medicine, had come down to visit me in New Orleans. And, you know, when you go to an HBCU, you have a different level of appreciation for Black history. And I knew about the Whitney Plantation and was really interested in visiting it. So my daughter and I and Philip, now Dr. Thomas, all went to visit it in July. And on our way back, I'll never forget my daughter. She was 8 years old at the time. She's 14 now, so that was 6 years ago. She said, "Dad, you know, we've come a long way." And this is an 8-year-old. And she was like,
Right.
"Yeah, Dad, you know,
Wow.
we've come a very long way." And I was like, who is we, and what are you talking about? You know, because I was kind of confused. She was like, "You know, Dad, like, we're riding in this car right now, and there's like 2 doctors in this car, and they're Black men, and like, we just came from a place when like we weren't allowed to read, and we weren't allowed to engage in education." And I was like, wow, like if an
Smart little
8-year-old
girl.
can recognize that, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
if she can recognize that, how much more can the world recognize it if we just give them a display? So
Yeah.
Out of the mouth of babes, right?
Out of the mouth of babes.
That was a top tier moment. That was definitely in the top 3 of mine for the year.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. For
We've
sure.
had
For this
some
half of the
moments.
year. For this half of the year,
Yeah, for
because we
this
got
half of the
half
year.
of the year left.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it takes the simplicity of a child to make a light bulb come on with us. And that wasn't even simple, because that was some sophisticated thinking that 8-year-old was
Okay.
putting down. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you
Good
know,
stuff, producer Bruce. Good stuff.
Yeah.
yeah,
You pull some good ones.
we try, man. It's been a tough day, but you know, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Yes. And prayers up for Malcolm Jamal Warner's family, and you know, comfort and strength in moving through this, for his family and all those who loved him.
And the community, yeah, because there are a lot of
Yeah.
people
And
who
the
are really
community.
affected by this. Yeah.
Yeah, when I said love, I mean all the people that he's touched, right? I
Yeah,
mean, who
yeah.
love
No
Cosby
doubt.
Show.
No
For
doubt.
sure, yes, yes. Well, thank you all. Fantastic show, Lila and Wayne. Thank you, Be Health Empowered family, for tuning in. And remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.
Rest in peace, Tom. Rest in peace.